Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about elemental dignities and how to use this method when reading the tarot and how it connects to tarot readings. So the first thing I want to get into before we get into any of this is we need to define what elemental dignities are. When we are looking at elemental dignities, what are we looking at? So elemental dignities is the analysis of the different elements, particularly in regards to the tarot, the different elements in the suits and in the major arcana that exist within the cards. It is the analysis of looking at those elements and determining how well they work together, whether they get along or they don't get along, and how well they mix and blend together to provide a certain outcome. Okay, you see elemental dignities used in a lot of different things. You see it used in astrology, you see it used in magic, particularly in spell working, and then you see it used in tarot as well. So it is not an uncommon thing. Anything that uses the four elements typically uses elemental dignities in some way, shape, or form. Now, astrology uses them a little different from reading tarot with them, and magic uses it a little different from astrology and reading the tarot. So, I mean, they all use them in different ways, but essentially they do use them. So, for example, in spell work, right, we know that certain elements work well together while other elements don't. So, if we're doing a spell, we want to pick elements that are going to help or aid in the spell work we are doing. So if we're doing something benefic, we'll probably want to use elements that get along well together, that work well together, that either support each other or strengthen each other, or, you know, they get along, they work together. If we're doing a spell that's a little more malefic in nature, maybe we want to use elements that don't get along, right? To add to that strife and that conflict of things. In astrology, again, that shows up, one way that it shows up, that I can see elemental dignities in the terms of analyzing how different things get along and work together is through the aspects in astrology when you're looking at how well certain planets, depending on what sign and element they're in, work with other planets, right? So if you have a planet in a water sign and you have another planet in an air sign, maybe these two planets don't work very well together, and these energies within your personality kind of conflict and cause strife, that kind of thing. So that's another way that you see elemental dignities in the essence of how well do energies mix and blend together. So how do elemental dignities work within the tarot? So elemental dignities is a technique that you can use when reading tarot. It does not have to be used. It is not you must use it in order to read tarot, or you must learn it in order to read tarot. I know lots of people who read tarot without using elemental dignities. I know some people that use it sometimes and don't use it other times, depending on whether they feel called to it or pulled to it in the reading. Some readers will be, when they do readings, they are pulled automatically to the elements of the cards and how well they are mixed together. Some readers do just strictly read using this technique in the system, okay? But it is a system, and the system works with 2 or more cards, 2 to 3 cards, sorry. So I usually don't see it used, or I haven't come across it used with more than 3 cards. That's not saying it can't be, but I feel typically it's only used with like 2 or 3 cards. Okay, so it's good for like 2 card spreads or 3 card spreads, or something along the lines of that, or even cards where you're pulling 1 or 2 clarifiers. You can use this technique with that as well. This technique was developed for the Order of the Golden Dawn to, this is their way of reading tarot, traditionally anyways, it's kind of been adapted and molded over the years by other people and other practitioners as well. But the original concept stems from the Order of the Golden Dawn. And you will see this technique used a lot with Aleister Crowley's deck, the Thoth Tarot, in terms of how people read with this. Now again, not everybody who uses Aleister Crowley's deck uses elemental dignities, but it is a common way of reading with that. It is also, I find, a common way of reading. People tend to use this more when they don't read reversals as well, because it tells you, what aspect of each card is coming out, whether it's a negative aspect or a positive aspect or vice versa. So yeah, that's what elemental dignities and how they work within the tarot. They help you compare the different suits of each card together to see how well the energies mix and blend together in a reading. Another way that they can work in a tarot is when you're doing a spread, they can also tell you and help you figure out what areas of that spread there's a lot of major energy in and focus in, and what areas of the spread where the energy may be weaker and less prominent. Okay, so sometimes when you're reading a spread, it can help you determine what area of the spread has a lot of stronger energies in it versus what area of the spread maybe there's not such strong energies or emphasis on. So before we get into elemental dignities, there are some terms we need to define, because if you don't understand what these terms mean, when I start getting into the rules of the elemental dignities, you are not going to understand the rules at all. So these terms are strengthen, support, weaken, and neutral or neutralize, depending on what you are reading. Okay. So strengthening, when I say strengthen, that just simply means that both cards are strengthening each other. They're making each other stronger. This can be in a good way or a bad way. Okay, this can be in a positive way or a negative way. If you have a card that already has maybe a negative connotation around it already, and you can feel some kind of we'll say less positive energy coming off of it. I don't like saying negative, but some, less positive energy coming off of it, then sometimes, if you have a card strengthening that, it is, again, another card. If you pull another card that's strengthening that card, it is just enhancing that energy. So it just strengthens the energy that already exists. Okay, so when another card is strengthening a card, it is strengthening the energy of the card that already exists. Support. When you pull a card that is supporting another card, okay, these two cards are working together. They are friends. Okay, I like to see the support as like that friend that's like, I got your back no matter what, right? They're going to help you, even if you're doing stupid stuff, because sometimes there are those friends that will egg you on and encourage you to do stupid things, okay? So this isn't always, again, it's not a negative or a positive thing. It's just there to support, whether that is supporting something negative or supporting something positive. They are there to support, okay? So, like I said, sometimes you have those friends who will support you and say, no, this is a dumb thing, you don't want to do that. And then you have those friends that'll be like, no, this is a great idea, even if it's not the best idea, and they'll still support you. They'll still be like, let's do it. So again, the type of friend isn't important. It's just important to know that when you pull a card that supports another card, they are supporting it. Good, bad, ugly, and everything in between. Now, weakening. If you pull a card that weakens another card, that means these two cards don't get along at all. Okay? In fact, oftentimes they're described as enemies. They do not get along at all. And the card that is pulled that's weakening the other card can essentially cancel out the energy of the card that it is weakening, if that makes sense. And sometimes they can both cancel each other out in terms of if you're just pulling two cards, right? the one card weakens the one card, but yes, the other card also, it works vice versa. So while the card you pulled is weakening the card you already had, the card you already had is weakening the card you pulled, and they just end up canceling each other out. A lot of times it is like these enemies that get into a room together and they just can't get along, so they both end up leaving. And then we have neutral or neutralize. So when you pull a card in a reading, when you're using elemental dignities and you pull a card that neutralizes the card already pulled, or the card you are reading, it just means that it is there. It really has no, it's not there to help, it's not there to hinder, it's just there. Okay? The other way that I like to think about neutralizing too is if you have an excess amount of energy, right? This card can neutralize it. I keep getting like acid, right? When you have something that is totally acidic, you can neutralize that acid by other substances, right? Adding other substances to it. And it deacidifies it, right? So if you have an excess of energies, sometimes neutral cards can be used to kind of bring that energy back into balance. Okay? If that makes sense. So now we're going to get into the rules of elemental dignities in tarot. So there are 4 rules when reading using this method, okay? So these are the 4 things you need to think about or look at when you are reading cards using this method. So the first rule is if the cards are the same elements, they strengthen each other. So as we know in tarot, there's the 4 suits. The 4 suits connect to 4 elements, okay? Pentacles connects to an element. Air connects to an element. Wands connects to an element. And Cups connects to an element. The major arcana also connects to elements. Okay? Each card in the major arcana connects to an element. Now, that is not as straightforward as the minor arcana, because we know that if we pull a Cups card, for instance, we know all the cups connect to the element of water. But with the major arcana, it's a little bit different because all the cards are connected to an element kind of randomly based upon their astrological correspondences a lot of times. So, for instance, the Sun card in the major arcana is connected to the element of fire. Why? Because the Sun is a fire planet. The Strength card is Leo energy. So Leo is fire energy, okay? And again, so it connects to the element of fire because Leo is a fire sign, okay? So if you are looking for a list of the tarot and the major arcana and what element in polarity they are, I will have that available up in my Etsy if you are interested in that. Okay, so the second rule is if the cards are the same polarity, they support each other. They support each other. So when you pull a card, okay, and you're using elemental dignities, when you pull 2 cards and these 2 cards are the same polarity, meaning they're both masculine or they're both feminine, or they're both active or they're both passive. So feminine energy is also passive energy. Passive energy is just another name for feminine energy. Active energy is just another name for masculine energy. So it doesn't matter whether you call it active energy or masculine energy, feminine energy or passive energy, they're the same energy, okay? So if the cards are feminine or masculine or active or passive, if they both are the same polarity, so they both have to be feminine or they both have to be masculine. If they are both masculine or both feminine, they support each other, which means, again, the one card is supporting the other card. Good, bad, ugly, and everything in between. If the cards elements contradict each other, they are weakening each other. So if you pull two cards with contradicting elements are earth and air and fire and water, okay? In the tarot. So in the tarot, the elements that contradict each other are earth and air, fire and water. So if you pull an earth card along with an air card, they contradict each other. If you pull a fire card along with a water card, they contradict each other. And in that case, they weaken each other. So the last rule is if the card elements complement each other, they neutralize each other, okay? So what are complementary elements? They are the opposite of the contradictive elements. So the contradictive elements are earth and air, fire and water, right? So the complementary elements would be earth and fire and water and air. Okay? So earth and fire. So if you pull an earth card and a fire card, they neutralize each other. If you pull a water card and an air card, they neutralize each other. So next I'm going to give you guys a couple examples of how to read just two cards. We're going to look at just keeping this super simple. We're not going to get into 3 cards. If you guys want to get into 3 cards, I would suggest doing some research on that on your own. But we're going to do some simple 2-card examples of how elemental dignities, how you can read using elemental dignities in the tarot. Okay, so let's jump into this. Give me a minute here. Okay, so here is the very first example that we have here, and I am using a digital app, and the only reason for that is because I can not screenshot this, but I can record it so that you guys can see. So here we have 2 different cards. We're just going to use pairs for this to keep it, because it gets a little more complex when you start adding a 3rd card in. So to keep this simple so I can show you guys what I mean, we're just going to use 2 cards, okay? So the first card we have coming up is the Fool, which is air energy, okay? It's connected to Uranus, and Uranus is an air planet. It rules Aquarius. And then we have the 10 of Cups. And the 10 of Cups being cups, it connects to the element of water. So we have air and water. So we want to find out what rule applies to both of these cards, okay? So the first rule of they strengthen each other if they're the same element. So we're going to ask ourselves, are they the same element? Air, water, same element? No. Are they the same polarity? Are they both feminine? No. Are they both masculine? No. Water's feminine, air is masculine. So we can scratch that off. So they don't support each other either. We know they don't strengthen each other because they're not the same element. They don't support each other because they're not the same polarity. Do they weaken each other? So earth and air weaken each other. Okay, we do not have an earth card beside the air card, so they don't weaken each other. We know that as well. So that only leaves one other one. They complement each other, which means they neutralize each other. So when I say neutralize, I mean they level out the energy, okay? So this can work in a couple different ways that you can read this, okay? So if you read this as these cards level each other out, they neutralize each other, they balance each other out, they level each other out, right? If you have too much Fool energy where you're being a little reckless. You're taking needless chances that maybe you don't necessarily need to take. You're taking risks that you don't really need to take, right? Then the Ten of Cups energy, family energy, can come in and kind of keep you, help you neutralize that energy to keep you on the right track, right? To keep you from being stupid or naive or making reckless choices that could potentially hurt you, okay? Or you can read this the other way. If you have an excess of family energy, right? Maybe you're somebody who likes to stay close to home. You have a very close-knit family, but you haven't really, and that has kind of prevented you from maybe going out and exploring and having a chance to go out and explore and a chance to go out and do things. And you can read this as the Fool energy can also neutralize this family energy. So the Fool energy can also help to bring in some energy of exploration, some energy of, newness, and can help you explore new things and maybe, travel outside of your comfort zone or travel outside of your family dynamic to experience some new things in a very positive way, okay? You can see that the Fool has his back turned to the Ten of Cups. So the other way that you can read this using elemental dignities as well is these both just are. These energies just are. Okay, so the Fool just is, and the Ten of Cups just is. So you may have a very strong family base, but you also have a lot of free spirit where you like to go out and explore things. You like to go out and explore new things, travel places, but maybe you always come back to your home when you're done, right? Maybe you like to have these little adventures where you try something new, but at the end of the day, you're always coming back to that safety zone, that, your comfort, your sanctuary, your home. Now, that being said too, you can read this as in the past, maybe, depending on how you look at this, you were in this energy and now you're moving into this energy, right? So maybe you were that person who liked to go out and explore and liked to, and there was nothing wrong with that. That was cool. That was okay. And now you've kind of just moved into this energy of this Ten of Cups where you just want to kind of settle down. You want to start a family with somebody. You found a place where you're comfortable in and you are ready to kind of set roots and start a family, or look for a partner or somebody to connect with. You're ready. You found a place you're comfortable in, that you want to stay long term instead of up and moving from place to place to place. So you can read these as two independent energies, and that you've kind of gone from one and moved into the other, or you can read them as excessive energies in a way that these cards help neutralize each other. So again, you have neutral Ten of Cups and you have a neutral Fool, right? And both of these cards kind of neutralize each other. If they get excessive over things, they kind of check each other and pull each other back into balance, so to speak. So if you get too homey and not enough adventure, you can kind of get bored and stuff. And then the Fool's coming in and saying, like, look, I don't really care what you do, but I think you need some more adventure. Or if you're a little reckless, that Ten of Cups can come in and be like, look, I don't really care what you do either, but I think you need to kind of like set some roots somewhere, or settle down a bit, or, relax and not be so crazy about things. Okay, so we're going to do one more example, and so here is another example. We have the Hanged Man, and we have the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so these two are major arcana cards, and like I said, the major arcanas are a little bit harder to read because there isn't that clear cut You have to know what element each major arcana card is connected to, as well as their polarity. Are they masculine? Are they feminine? Okay. So the Hanged Man is a water element, making it feminine in nature. The Wheel of Fortune is a fire element, making it masculine in nature. Okay, so we're going to go through the rules again. Are they the same element? No, we know they're not the same element. We have water and fire. Are they the same polarity? No, we know water is feminine, fire is masculine, so not same polarity. Are they contradictory elements? Well, what are the contradictory elements? We have earth and air. Is this an earth card? No. Is this an air card? Are either one of these earth and air cards? No. Are they water and fire cards? Yes. We have the Hanged Man, which is water, and the Wheel of Fortune, which is fire. So we do have contradicting elements, which means these two cards weaken each other. Okay, so in a reading, they would probably cancel each other out. So there is a strong desire to move forward with things, to expand things, and jump out with things. But, as far as sensitivity, so the Hanged Man represents sacrifice, but it also represents knowledge and wisdom and illumination and deep insight. So to me, introspection. It also represents introspection, right? Whereas the Wheel of Fortune is more of an action card. It is more of a let's keep things going, and the Hanged Man is kind of like slow down, stop, pause. This kind of reminds me of the Esau rune or the ice rune if you're looking at runes, where you have the rune of pausing, introspection, reflection, right? So there's a desire to kind of keep moving forward and keep doing things, and keeping that wheel going is weakening your ability to stop and pause and take note of certain things to go within. It's like you're so caught up in doing that you're not taking time to meditate. You're not taking time to connect with yourself. You're not taking time to go within and connect with your own inner voice, your own inner knowledge, your own inner wisdom. You're not taking that time to pause and take a breath, which weakens the Hanged Man in a lot of ways, okay? So it's funny because while Jupiter is the planet all about expanding, which is what the Wheel of Fortune is connected to, is Jupiter. It's a planet all about expanding up and out of this consciousness, right? Which is what the Hanged Man does, essentially. It gets into that spiritual consciousness and that spiritual mind. While Jupiter is the planet of, reaching up and expanding out of that, the desire to do that so much actually weakens your ability to do it. Which is really interesting because, again, its ability to reach up and out has been weakened, okay? So you have this weakened ability to see into things, and you have this weakened ability to kind of keep things going, keep the luck going, to leave things to fate, however you want to see that. Both of these cards are weakened in energy, okay? They're both weakening each other. And as a result, the ability to accomplish what this wants to accomplish, which essentially is to gain a higher understanding of things, because the Hanged Man is, I believe, Neptune energy. I don't think it's Pisces energy. I think it's Neptune energy. And we also have the Jupiter. Like, both of those planets are very spiritual planets, and they're very much planets about, connected to Pisces itself and the sign of Pisces. So while they kind of essentially tried to do the same thing, they're blocking each other, they're weakening each other. This person's desire to keep things moving and keep things going and is blocking them from being able to take some time to have some insight into things and to take some time to pause. It's weakening that ability to gain the insight that they need, and vice versa. This over, if it was reversed and this was on the bottom and we had this energy of keeping going, this pausing and this reflection and maybe this over meditating or overthinking things or not having any drive or just this passiveness, this just hanging around kind of energy is weakening this energy to move forward as well. So you can read it either way, but either way there's this energy of wanting to move forward, which isn't happening, as well as wanting to gain a deeper insight into things, which also is not happening. Both of those energies are weakened right now, and they're in a weakened state, so they may be struggling with doing both of these things. Makes sense? So hopefully that helps you guys figure out how to, is a good demonstration on how to put this technique into application, okay? So you pretty much read it just like you normally would, except you take into consideration whether the cards are weakening, strengthening, neutralizing, or supporting each other in the process of this. Now, if you were to read this in a spread, you would pull one card per placement, okay? So if you're doing like a past, present, future spread, instead of pulling 3 cards, you would pull 6 cards, because you would want to pull 2 cards per position, and then read both cards based off of, on each position based off of elemental dignity. Okay, at least that's how I would do it anyways. Everybody has different ways of reading, so go with whatever you feel drawn to. Again, if this seems too complicated for you and you don't like this at all, you don't have to read using this technique at all. Okay, I just wanted to give examples and show you guys how you can read using this technique if you so choose to. It is a bit more of an advanced technique, so if you're watching this and you're like, I still don't get it, that's okay. Read your way, do you, and just keep reading in whatever style and way works for you. So thank you guys for watching this, and I hope you guys all have an amazing day, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye guys.